This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another season of RaceSpot TV Friday Prime Time here on RaceSpot TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. I'm Connery Maddock. Joining me in the commentary booth as ever is Will Vincent, and it's time for what was last season's sort of little brother here, Will. It's the iRacing Formula 3 Championship as opposed to the Formula Renault 3.5s.
Yep, so last time out it was the Formula Renault 3.5s. This time it's Formula 3 in terms of what we're going to do for the next 12 weeks. And of course, Connery, this is what the fans voted for.
Yep, it is, and well, we every week 13 we open up a vote to see which series that you, the viewers, want to see that hasn't been featured for the past couple of seasons, and this time around you did choose the Formula 3 Championship, which I see just in other areas of the streaming services here on iRacing, very, very popular amongst the likes, of course, real-life F1 drivers, Lando Norris, you got Max Verstappen jumping in on occasion. Of course, they're not going to be here this time. I think they have a little bit of a bigger job somewhere on the other side of the world, I don't know. But still, it should be an absolutely fantastic series regardless.
Yeah, Seasons 2 and Seasons 3 of iRacing normally are the heartbeat of the iRacing community, the drivers that run all year long and they do their thing. And we've got Timo Toika, he's just got himself to pole position. One thing I want to mention, of course, Connie, before we head ourselves to the grid here at Imola, is we did lose Charlie Whiting, Formula 1 race director, 66 years of old, just 2 days before all the activity started off at Melbourne.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlie Whiting, just one of the figureheads of just Formula 1 in general. He was race director, became race director in 1997, and that is the exact year I was born. So as far as I'm concerned, it's been a part of F1 throughout my entire life, and it's really sort of emotional to see him gone, and hope the best for his family and his friends during this very tough time.
Grid though coming up.
Absolutely. Timo Toika going to be on pole position for this one. Joining him on the front row will be Nicholas Rasmussen. Then you look down to second row. You've got Michael Kaiser and Andres Fernandez bringing things down to P4. Then P5, you've got Massimo Loceto, you've got Johan Laigraderi, excuse me, as Loic Barb will line up in 7th place with Cameron Dance in 8th, Christophe Herbingo, P number 9, with Chris Burgess, P10, with Alexander Ruet, P11, with Perez. In P12, we've got Thomas Ziegler, we've got Luan Vincius de Souza down in P14, with Peter Sonka with P15. P16 will go to David Oranzel, Timu Koitila. There, P17. I'm struggling with the names today. I do apologise.
It's a new season. We take at least 2.5 races to get into this, Connery.
Yeah, we do. We take a while. Axel Lekman, P18, with Greg Valley, P19, with Peter 10 Kluster, rounding out your top 20, and that's probably one of the toughest names of grids I've ever had to run down. I apologise.
But drivers are lined up on the starting grid, Conor. We're getting ready for 18 laps worth of racing today. New series, and as we say, it is Friday Night Prime Time. This is what you, the iRacing community, voted for. We are happy to have you with us, Connery, as we get set for 12 weeks worth of racing. Formula 3 in terms of Friday Night Prime Time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a couple more moments before we get ourselves racing here today. Looks like everyone is taking themselves to the starting grid. A new season here of RaceSpot TV Friday primetime gets itself underway. Storming down to turn number 1 we go. Fantastic start from P number 4 for Andres Fernandez. He'll look to make an outside move. Coming down in towards turn number 1. His lane will be blocked though, so he might only gain 1 position down into here. 1 position gain for car number 3 at the front of the field. There's a 4-car breakaway at the front already as there's jostling for position much further behind. We had a big moment back there.
Yeah, a car off down at Tamburello corner. That is the driver of Alexander Root. He had himself a huge moment down at Tamburello on corner number 1. Here's the replay then. Him going off. He already had incident before he even hit Tamburello, and he goes off there and he is down in the field. But out front a little bit further, we have got yourselves your race leader of Team Toika. He's defended really heavily from Nicholas Rasmussen. So we have got Rasmussen in this race here, Conway, as they head towards the third chicane.
Yeah, Nicholas, the open wheel Freddie Rasmussen, I suppose, but not at the front of the field just yet for Nicholas. Top iRating in this entire field right now. If you're wondering what the strength of field is, it's standing at around 3,150 is the average iRating in the field here today. There's been an incident a little bit further back, though, involving the number 16 car. There's just dropped a little bit further back. That was coming up in towards Variante Alta. Timu Kotila here. Maybe what has happened here? Oh, it's just in the whole accordion effect coming down into Variante Alta there, because we had Peter Tenkluster behind trying to make a move over Greg Valle, but he just completely made a mess of it.
Yeah, as we've got ourselves a lot of drivers very close together towards the back end of your lead pack. Too wide, almost too deep, in towards Tamburello corner chicane once again. This is the number 6 machine, number 7 machine, the 2 names that we are going to have to learn our way through this season. Christophe Herbino and Johan Lorangi then in the number 7 machine as they exit Tamburello and head themselves down towards the Villeneuve chicane right now on track lap number 2 of 18. Going to be score complete this time past start finish line. Of course, live timing and scoring, Connery, it is available now.
It is side by side between Larry Goderi and Bernie Perez there, as Perez goes down the inside at Piratel. Not really the best overtaking opportunity at this racetrack, but Perez has been able to make it work and solidifies his position ahead of the Frenchman for now as they head their way up towards Variante Alta. You can still see most of this mid-pack in very close contention indeed on lap number 2 of this event. But apart from that early instant, everyone has just gotten themselves calmed down and behaved.
Yeah, and we're looking on board with Perez then. He made the move there in a corner that's not normally an overtaking spot. So it's a good move there by the number 18 car. He is the 3rd from last driver in terms of iRating in this field, making a good impact. So there's one thing that's worth noting, of course, Connery, and you mentioned it, the strength of field, 3,000, 3,500 here today. Not the dizzy height that we saw last time Friday night prime time, but it is worth mentioning, as I say, it's season 2. This is a chance for drivers to really start to show their mettle, as here is the number 13 car of Michael Kaiser, putting the pressure on Leon G right now, down to the inside, in towards the Villeneuve chicane, and it looks as though he will get that move complete.
There's the car off ahead of him, though. Perez is spun just on the exit of the Villeneuve chicane there. The number 18 machine, so just ahead of the move you just saw happen up on your screen. The driver directly ahead of that one has run themselves into a couple of problems. Perez just clipping the inside curb there of Villeneuve just a little bit too hard, and it spins him towards the outside grass. I don't think he hit a wall, though, so he should be okay.
Replays up. Yeah, he just catches one of those little sleeping policemen, and he does avoid all of the Armco barriers and the tyre barriers. So Perez loses a lot of positions. He's now down into P number 16 on track, but he does get back out onto track. But let's talk about this one then, Connery. The fact that the strength of field is not as high as what we saw in our season 1 competition doesn't mean the racing's going to be any different. It just means there's a lot of people who's got 6 world championships that they are fighting in over the course of the next 6 months.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely the important issue. Of course, the first week of these things as well takes a while for people to realize that this is exactly what is going on. But a driver that does know exactly what is going on right now is Teemu Toika, although he is having to put up a bit of a defense here for the race lead over Rasmussen. And Rasmussen now has a bit of a run coming in towards Villeneuve. Just a little bit of a look down the inside for the first apex. Not going to commit at this early stage, though, for Rasmussen. I think he's just content to sit behind here, just in the slipstream, and then maybe make a move just a little bit later on. It does seem that Rasmussen has a ton of pace behind the wheel of that car, though.
He does, as we're right on board of him right now as he heads himself down to Retrophilia, the long left-hander that goes through here before the Aqua Minerale complex of corners. The right-hander he's coming into now. You slow down once, you slow down twice, and you put the pedal on. And these Formula 3 cars, you got to remember, they've not got as much brake horsepower as a Formula 1 3.5s. They've only really got 225 brake horsepower, but these are nifty little machines.
Yes, they definitely are, and Rasmussen trying to make that niftiness pay dividends for him at this moment in time. Not going to be too successful. He's just going to sit behind, just as I said just a couple of moments ago, and maybe look for an opportunity a little bit later on in this race, unless a very obvious opportunity is given to him. Going to sit in the slipstream, coming down all the way down the pit straight right now, and these cars, of course, do punch a bit of a hole in the air, so this might just be effective here for Rasmussen, but not going to be close enough this time down into turn one, not by any means. Just having a little bit of a look at the battles further back in your pack, though. Rasmussen running over turn number one just a little bit too much there, committed on the brakes, but as I said, I'm just going to have a little bit of a look back to positions further down. We do have a battle for P8 and P9. Yep, that was Thomas Zeiger just making his way through at turn number one over Larry Goderi. As now driver number 7 just has to fall behind, and well, he's still up in terms of positions gained here on his actually he's not up in positions gained on his qualifying. He's actually dropped back a little bit, so not the greatest of starts here for the number 7, but he still has plenty of time to work his way back into this race.
Yeah, he does, and just ahead of him you got a battle going on for P number 7 on track. This is Michael Kaiser and Massimile Lascetto in the battle for P number 6 on track, who are riding on board right now with the number 10 machine. And we've got to remember as well, Connor, in terms of the very weird and confusing makeup of the lower Formula cars over the last 3 years, we had ourselves GP2 over the course of the last couple of years, and GP3 it's no longer GP2 GT3, it's now Formula 2 Formula 3 once again. And I will say, I struggle to get my head around the FIA changing and all these series over times.
I think the previous set of changes was just to simplify it, so it seems a little bit less confusing. Of course, it's a straight run from Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula 4 with
like
the regional championships
be
as well. So yeah, I think they've got it right this time around, I think.
Yeah, of course, at one point we had Formula 3000 in place of Formula 2, but we have actually got an issue because Teemu Toika has gone back to the race lead, and
Rasmussen's around.
Yeah, I think they had an incident down at Tamburelli corner. I saw them both going slowly, and I think Nicholas Rasmussen and Teemu Toika have had an incident. This is down towards the Tamburelli chicane here, Connery. We're putting the replay up now. Let's have a look from our overhead camera, brought to you by And1 Design, official graphics partner of RaceWhat TV. And do they make contact? Oh yes, they do. And it is Nicholas Rasmussen who gets turned around and he gets hit down on the second part of Tamburelli corner.
Yeah, that was Fernandez there, just trying to make his way through, and well, Rasmussen just rolling backwards on the track, came back on, so decided to run back off the track backwards, and that was just an unpredictable target for Fernandez to try to avoid. And you see Fernandez just hit the brakes as soon as he saw the car on the racing surface, tried to go one way, and then of course Rasmussen changed direction, trying to get off the racing circuit. And that's just one of those things, well, you just have to be predictable when you've got yourself spun around in the middle of the track and not make any quick changes of direction.
And this is one of the reasons why, in terms of World Motorsports Council, you have to run a certain number of series at the lower levels, Formula 2, Formula 3, anything else, in order to get yourself a super license, Connery. And part of that is understanding when you are going to make an incident to make sure you reduce the impact of that as much as possible, as Nicholas Rasmussen is on towards pit road from the race lead.
Yeah, you could, that instant, just a couple of replays passing ourselves by, but yeah, up into the pit lane comes Nicholas Rasmussen, not able to continue on with the vast amount of damage that has been sustained to the front end of his car. Has to find his pit box, get that fast, well, not that fast repair in this particular series. That's going to be a full repair coming his way. He can get that front wing changed, but that's about it in terms of the damage you can get repaired here to these Formula 3 cars. So that is going to be a bit of a struggle right now for Rasmussen to get himself any progress further in this race. He's going to be best part of half a lap down once he heads to between those green cones. So he's basically relying on other drivers to drop out of this race if he's going to have any chance at gaining back some iRacing, gaining back some championship points as well.
Indeed so, but a little bit further ahead, we've got Luke Barber and the number 2 machine battling out with Christophe Herbinot in the number 6 car as they head themselves down towards Ravazza number 1. I mean, we talk about this being a feeder series, Conway. We look also at Kimi Räikkönen. He's a driver that did 23 races before he entered Formula 1, and that was the kind of like high watermark of anything that was acceptable. But in most cases, these drivers do have to come through F2 and F3, and right now the sim racing drivers, they are showing some exceptionals. In fact, Herbinot looks very close to maybe going down the inside, and he decides not to do so in towards Tamburello corner, but a big lock up there for Luke Barb.
Yeah, very, very big indeed, and well, he's just going to continue on his way just for the moment. Doesn't seem to be too phased about the potential early challenge from Herbinot down into turn number 1, as Herbinot gets a little bit of a loose moment coming through Villeneuve, but he'll be okay as well. And out of Tosa, that's one of the corners where you really have to get a good run if you're going to make a move. Not through turn number 8, although we have seen that happen previously in this race, but you can make one perhaps down in towards Acqua Minerale as like Barb, like right at the front of that battle, just getting a huge bunch of oversteer coming through Piratella, able to hold on to it though. But the thing is, I think Herbinot has the upper hand here, and he gets the run out of Acqua Minerale as well, side by side down to Variante. Absolute overspeed going the way of Herbinot, pulls back in line, easy position gains.
Yeah, it was. We're looking at something else. We're going to show you the replay. This is the run towards Acqua Minerale and out of Acqua Minerale, and we're looking at P number 2 and P number 3. Luke Barb in the number 2 car just gets himself a bit loose there on the exit of Acqua Minerale. That allows him to go alongside him in towards that third chicane, and he just pulls ahead. As she says, Conway, it's worth noting as well, we have got battles going on between the drivers of Johan Larangui and also Luan Vincenzo de Sousa as they head themselves towards the third chicane and now down towards Ravazza.
Yeah, Johan maybe going to be on the attack here into turn 1, but no opportunity going to present itself just now, as some of these drivers have been a little bit sketchy on the brakes down into Tamburello, which is the first corner of this track, and maybe some drivers behind will look to capitalize on any sorts of mistakes. Any sort of mistake coming down into there. There's battling going on ahead though. Fernandez versus Kaiser down into Tosa, and Kaiser's been spun around towards the middle there of Tosa, and there's been a couple of problems with Thomas Ziegler as well, heading their way through the hairpin, and well, it was a move attempted to be made there from Kaiser around the outside. It was a slight mistake for Fernandez coming up through Villeneuve, and then Fernandez trying to take the middle of the racetrack when Kaiser was already trying to take a relatively wide line. Just, I think that's a racing instant. 2 into 1 simply doesn't go.
All started at Villeneuve, I think, for the two drivers. All started at the lines that they took through Villeneuve, but Kaiser is the driver that has suffered the most out of that. Let's have one more look then. And this is in towards Villeneuve, and Kaiser taking a very wide line, taking then the outside line of the driver to the inside of him, just pushing a little bit wide, and the two come together at Tosa. You're right, Connor, it is a racing incident, but in the terms of this Formula 3 car, Kaiser, you've got to remember that these guys have got so much torque off corner.
They do have a very decent amount, as that incident has just shuffled things a little bit inside your top 5 here. Fernandez is actually going pretty slowly down in towards turn number 1, gets passed by 2 cars on the outside line there. That was Lauren Goderi and was the car of David Onazol as well, and I think Fernandez, that might have just been a slowdown penalty coming out of the exit of the final corner. No, he just pushed a little bit wide, and he has a huge amount of front wing damage regardless, so he's going to be hurting very much in a straight line here. I wouldn't be surprised if he drops even further back, maybe towards outside of the top 10 here by the time this race is done.
Meanwhile, we're running on board with David Onzanzo in the number 8 Iberian machine. He is about 6 tenths of a second behind Johan Longandi. But what we've noticed in this race so far, Conway, is that a second gap is not enough, because these cars are very slippery. They are running on slick tyres, but they're actually one of the first Formula that you will run on slick tyres. Previously to that, you normally run on street tyres, so it's a big difference between this and other Formulas. Oh, and Onzanzo actually might get an advantage over Ryan Gandry in towards Ravazza, because the number 7 car had a huge wiggle through the third chicane.
Yeah, Larry Goderi, I believe, is the correct pronunciation of the driver that's at the front of this train right now. We'll just have to work our way through that. But Onazol not able to capitalize just yet. Just a little bit of lost time for the driver of the number 7 car right now. And, the number 7 car, excuse me, as it's going to be car in number 7 in P7. Car in P8 is going to be now actually going to be Peter Zonka as they all shuffle themselves by, but down towards the inside for Nazal. That's a fantastic move there into the Tamburello chicane, but Larry Goderi is going to be able to fight back here on the way down to the Villeneuve chicane as well, but no opportunity going to present itself just yet, following very, very tightly indeed through this section, but Larry Goderi is not going to be able to make anything happen in towards Tosa either, so I think Onazol might just have this position on lockdown, even though the 7 is chasing him hard as well.
Yeah, and we've had people asking what the strength of field of this series here, Connie. On one hand, we know it's about 3,500. However, on the flip side of that, this is a series that you see a lot of people start to make their progress. So strength of field isn't worth that much in this series compared to others that we, of course, we have broadcast on Friday Night Prime Time. But Lohan Gandry then is looking about 2.5 car lengths back in towards the third chicane, but not much pressure between himself and the driver running in P number 8. That is Peter Sonska in the DH number 12 car.
Yeah, not much to separate this mid-pack right now. It is quite a train from what's going to be position 7, where David Onazol is right now, all the way back to, I would say, sort of going towards P11, P12 area. Chris Burgess, Michael Kaiser involved in that one, as the guys at the front of this whole pack, though, we continue to maybe have a little bit of a look into turn 1, and Peter Sonka is definitely a driver that's looking very, very threatening. He might have just had a moment down the inside there, or at least a moment of opportunity. Doesn't take it right now. We are currently on lap 12 of 18 here, so coming into the latter portions of this race, some drivers might just become a little bit more impatient in terms of getting the moves done.
Good to see the international field here on Formula 3. Oh, as Cameron Darn just exits Tamburello corner, and he has himself a moment. He dances that car back onto the track. No pun intended. But the exit of the Villeneuve chicane proved horrible for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Exit just rides over the curb at the wrong angle, perhaps bottomed out the car on that portion of the racetrack as well, just noses it into the tire barrier there, manages to get himself spun back around, although Axel Bergman did have to take avoiding action as Dance re-entered the racetrack. But that is a lot, and I mean a lot of time lost here for Cameron Dance. I'm just going to check where he is. He's currently in P13, so he has lost about 4 positions as a result of that spin. He was inside that top 10 in P number 9.
I was about to say as well that we've got a good international field here from drivers from both Europe, the US and Australasia, and Cameron Dines goes wide as he comes towards Ackerman and Riley right now. So it's almost as if we need to turn our attention away from him. Let's go back to Teemu Toika, Club Finland versus Club Benelux. Teemu Toika in the number 5 car, and Christoph Hebeno in the number 6 car from Club Benelux. 1.7 seconds is separating these two drivers right now, but it's worth noting that Hebeno is gaining time, half a second almost, over the last 2 laps.
Yeah, starting to close in. It wasn't the greatest of qualifying performances for Herbing, though. Started 9th on the grid with a 136.765 compared to Toika's 135.8. So that's almost a second being lost there in qualifying. But the race pace seems to be a lot better here for Herbing, though. And the closer he gets, the more beneficial this will be, because he'll start to feel the effects of the slipstream. Of course, there is a factor of dirty air in these cars, especially when you're coming into those chicanes, but nowhere near as much as their bigger cousins, let me tell you that. So these guys can follow each other pretty closely.
Yeah, the gap has extended though back up to 1 second between the two drivers as they exit now. Rivatsa number 2. The next thing is a very long front straightaway, and of course this has been really profiled, Connery, in the last couple of years. It used to be a chicane that Hebeno's just gone past, but now it's flat out all the way down into Tamburello corner. It's literally the maximum in terms of FIA straight line rules.
One of the longest straights, yes, getting rid of Variante Bassa, but of course it's got nothing compared to things like Baku and
yes,
what's going to be the circuit, the Americas as well. You've also got that circuit in Korea.
Have you seen that track that they're having at the Excel Centre in London?
I am not aware.
The Formula E is doing a race that is not only, it's indoors, outdoors at the Excel Centre, and the Excel Centre is one of the longest journeys you'll ever do on foot to get from one side to the other, and they're doing a Formula E race inside it, partially.
Yeah, it's just indoors, outdoors. That is incredible, and it's probably one of the things that pretty much only Formula E's can do, unless you're American and talk about the Chili Bowl with the indoor races.
Got to love the Chili Bowl.
Yeah, but with the electric cars, there's no worries about having a huge amount of ventilation, because they're just electric cars and there's no fumes really coming off of them. So that'd be absolutely fantastic to see, and maybe I might plan on going there. Maybe just maybe. But Herbing, though, the only place that he's planning to go is up into P1 right now, as he tries to continue to work on reducing that gap, and I think he's being rather successful right now. Gap is down to 0.7 of a second as they head their way through the final couple of corners. Toika might just be under threat here, Will.
He might be, as last time by. Let's get the lap gaps up as they come past the start-finish line. And Teemu Toika does a 1:36.802. A quarter of a second is the advantage by Christoph Hebeno in the number 6 Benelux car as they head themselves through the first chicane, the Tamburello chicane. Once again, we go on board with Hebeno in that number 6 car in towards Villeneuve chicane. Once again, to quote Murray Walker, catching is one thing, passing is another. But what we do see is that Hebeno is putting the pressure on Teemu Toika with 3.5, well, 3 3/4 laps to go.
Herbing is absolutely nailing the exit of the corners right now. That's where he's gaining all of his time. Toika not feeling entirely comfortable with the car again. You can see Toika pushing wide through Peratella, and now Herbing is in very much within striking distance on the bricks again. Herbing closes up down through the bottom of the racetrack, climbing back up the hill now towards Variante Alta, one of the highest portions of this racetrack given its name. Get yourself stopped for these chicane as well, with those very, very high curbs on the inside there. You can take, you can deceivingly sort of take a lot of them without causing too many issues with the car, but you do have to be a little bit careful. And now Herbing down into the first Rivatsa now, and he has his prey in his sights. He can just sit in the slipstream all the way down the front straight here. Toika not feeling comfortable with how that rear end is coping with things on the exit of the corner. He's losing time.
And it's one of the things we saw in the Formula Running 3.5 Championship is that drivers who push too hard lose out later on. There's one compound of tyres, of course, here in the Formula 3 Championship and in towards the first section. Tamburello corner, they come for the third to last time. But what heaven out in the number 6 car, what I did see was the advantage coming in that middle sector through Acquamirali. But the key issue is going to be when can Herbino make that pass, and also we haven't got as many of those driver aids that you saw last season, Connery.
You don't even have the RS. Like, you have to make the pass sort of in your own hands instead of trying to think about how many more activations that you have in your car compared to the other drivers. So this is going to be all driving skill, no electronic aids whatsoever. As out of Acquamirali, they will go. And Herbino, his run has been a little bit stalled out here this lap. Not going to be as good as his laps previous, so Toika will have a little bit of breathing room to work with, arguably coming into the last couple of laps of this race. And this is the point where Herbino wished that the Formula 3s had DRS. Yeah,
the gap is 7 tenths of a second as they come down in towards Ravazza number 1. The curbs here at Imola are historically low, so you can run over them dramatically. The gap is going to be 9 tenths of a second, however, past the start-finish line, Connery. 2 laps to go, and Herbino is actually now on the back foot.
Yeah, he's dropping back, and of course on the topic of DRS, Formula 3 cars will use DRS in what is going to be the upcoming, coming into the 2019 season. So there we go. So this might be one of the last opportunities that we'll have to see DRS-less open wheel racing in terms of FIA sanctioned series. But Herbino, yeah, he's dropping back, but Toika so sketchy over Villeneuve. And with only, just under 2 laps to go here in this one, that is not the problems that Toika would have wanted at all. It brings Herbino back into things, but Herbino is just having to rely on more mistakes like that one from Toika.
Yeah, and Toika is actually 4 tenths per second faster than Herbino the last time around the racetrack. So even though the gap has come down again, it looks as though as soon as the Herbino gets into that dirty air, he's not got anything he can do as they work themselves then towards Acquamirali and down towards that third chicane one more time. Bassa, they come down through right now. You can see the 2 drivers coming through that one, and actually look at the gap. It's 4 seconds back to anyone else, and then I'm not even going to put the camera on them for any longer because it's 13 seconds between P number 3 and P number 4 here, Connery, as they're about to come down to the white flag lap. Who's it going to be, Herbino or Toika?
As long as Toika doesn't make any mistakes from this point forward, I think he has this race win on lockdown. But that car has been so sketchy through Villeneuve and so sketchy on the exit of Tosa that if Toika makes mistakes coming through those sections of racetrack, then his race win may not be as guaranteed as it looks right now. Down in towards turn number 1 for the Finnish driver. Looks okay coming through Tamburello. And keeping that car relatively planted coming on the exit here. But this is one of the big sticking points that he's had over the past couple of laps in towards Villeneuve. First apex will be fine. Second apex is the one he absolutely needs to nail. And he does it absolutely perfectly as well into Toaster. And I think if he doesn't make a mistake here, I think that's going to be pretty much done. Out of the corner he will go. And there we go. It's Toika. He's actually extending the gap right now. Gap is up to 1.8 seconds. So Herbino has dropped way off the back of this one inside of the final lap. So Toika very, very comfortable at the front of this field, and Herbino's still trying to push. He pushed all the way wide coming through Piratella, but I don't think that this is going to happen for Herbino unless something catastrophic happens to Toika. So he's coming up towards the last sector now. Teemu Toika, just a couple more corners to go, and he will take the inaugural race win here in the Formula 3 Championship here on iRacing. No mistakes at all through Variante Alta either. So then it's pretty much a straight shoot run all the way down through turn 13, turn 14, turn 15, and of course technically 16 and 17, even though they're not really corners, with the removal of the chicane at the end of the lap. But through the final corner, Teemu Toikka will go, nail that throttle 100% all the way to the line. Teemu Toikka will win here in the Formula 3 Championship here on RaceSpot TV Friday prime time on the iRacing Esports Network. Herbino will come across the line after a late race challenge in second place, just 2 seconds back. We're running out of steam right at the end there. The thing is, you look further back to positions just outside your top 5. It's a bit of a train here. David Almanzol leading them out of the final corner. Perez in what is going to be P number 7 there. Larangaderi P8, and Peter Sonka will come across the line in P9. So no changes of position in that. It's a bit of a train there in the mid-pack. But that was a decent race we've just had.
It was a disappointing last lap to the race, I'd argue, but for the most part, the drivers brought themselves home. We had ourselves 15 of the 20 drivers complete this race, so that is about a 75% efficiency rate. That is good here, Connery. But in terms of the winner, of course, Teemu Toikka, he got 1.9 seconds at the end, but I think that the number 6 car just gave up on the last lap.
Yeah, the lap time deficit was just over a second on that last lap. So once Irving didn't get the best of runs through the first sector, that was pretty much the race win gone for him. But we can't sort of pile on him too much right now, because he started in P9 and he got himself up into P2 with a very real chance at the race win as well. So still an absolutely fantastic run for Herbing. Just needs to sort out a couple of issues in qualifying, and he'll be very much a front runner coming into the later rounds. But here is your here are your official race results for round 1. Teemu Toikka taking the win by 2 seconds over Christoph Herbingo, and Loic Barb will gain himself the 3rd step of the podium there after starting in P7. Another big mover will be Thomas Ziegler there. Started P13, ended up in P4, whereas Locatello will finish exactly where he started there in P5. David Ananzal in P6, with Bernie Perez finishing in P7. Johan Longanderi there, P number 8, with Peter Zonka finishing in 9th place. Chris Burgess will round out your top 10. Michael Kaiser takes P11 after all is said and done, although he would have been looking for a little bit more there with a start in P3. We've got Axel Bergman, P12. Nicholas Rasmussen also having issues early on. Had to come down onto the lane to get a pit stop service done, get some repairs done, and he finishes in P13. Andres Fernandez, also with early issues, finishes in P14. Peter Sencluster at P15, with Cameron Dance, P16. Luan Vincius de Souza finishes in P17, with Alexander Ruitt, P18. Timo Katila in P19, with Greg Valle ends up in P20 after this race is done. A little bit more of a flawless rundown of all of the names there that took to the starting grid and got to the checkered flag as well. And join us in just a couple of moments for the post-race show here on RaceSpot TV. Don't go away.
Hey, do you want to play video games for 24 hours straight and raise money for kids?
Yes! It's a lot of fun. I'm glad that I'm supporting a great cause.
The kids are going to be the future streamers that are going to be extra lifers.
The cool thing is we've been partnering with these guys for the last few years, and we've grown a really, really close relationship, and we've actually done stuff directly in the hospital that we can actually see.
My name is Curvy Llama.
We're Jack and Katie.
My name is Good. This isn't Game Over.
Extra life. Play games. Heal kids.
When we all come together and just bring in the charity love, there's no going back. It's the best thing in the world.
My passion for this stems from when 2 of my kids were born, they had to spend a lot of time in the hospital.
many of you know, Extra Life began in 2008 in memory of Victoria Enman. At that time, it was a local fundraiser for Texas Children's Hospital, where Tori fought her cancer.
At Victoria's house. Bye!
My name is Joellen Inman, and I'm Tori's mom. And this game is not over.
Some families, the game is just beginning. We've got a long ways to go. That road is a long road.
This is your Extra Life money in action.
CHOC is actually building an entire wing dedicated to children's mental health.
I play video games, I raise money for Extra Life.
I am streaming for Amy.
El 100% de ese dinero se queda local en tu hospital o fundación a la que tú representes.
Extra Life Super Mega Ultra Charity Live Stream Extravaganza of Awesomeness.
Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpot TV Friday Primetime. It's the post-race show with myself, Connery Maddock, and of course Will Vincent. Fairly interesting race that we've had here today. Timo Toika coming out on top, but most of the challengers that could challenge him in the early stages just dropped by the wayside a little bit. And Teemu, fantastic race win for you here today, 2 seconds over your closest competitor, but the pressure was piled on late on in that race. So just talk me through how you dealt with that.
Yeah, I saw Christoph coming in fast, and I kind of started panicking. I wasn't too sure what to do, because even if I tried to push I would usually go off track and lose time. So I would just, in the last laps, I would just wait a bit and or take it easy and just see if I can battle it out on straight line speed.
Yeah, and well, you did come away with it at the end. Herving was not able to challenge you on that last lap, and coming into sort of the later rounds of the season, now that we do have this broadcast here on RaceSpot TV for Friday primetime, do you think that's going to attract sort of more racers to come and race in the Formula 3 Championship, so that you might have quite a lot of company at the top of the field? Do you think that's going to happen, or is it going to be mostly you?
I hope I get a bit more challenging. I had a good race, good battle with Niklas and Christoph, and I think they're gonna give me a hard time in the season coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, is there anyone you want to thank before we get on to Niklas?
I want to thank my teammates. I want to thank my spotter Fraser and the setup maker gregsetupshop.co.uk and the setup maker Jack Sedgwick, and yeah, thank you everyone.
There we go. Fantastic result for you, and of course the drivers and the team members that work around you. And well, you're standing by with Niklas Rasmussen, who had a very, very early challenge to Teemu Toikka's lead. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make it work though.
So yeah, Niklas Rasmussen, you started off at the front of the field in P number 2. You're involved in the battle early on, but you ended up down in P number 13. What happened to you?
First of all, can you guys hear me? Just reset
Yes, we
my
can.
mic. Good. Well, simple netcode, basically. Nothing you can do there. I was having a good race with Timo. Really enjoyable. He ran a little bit less downforce than me. So I was faster in the corners, and I think it was coming up to lap 7. He made a mistake coming onto the straightaway, and I knew I had to strike while the iron was hot, so to say. So went for the launch, and well, netcode ended it, unfortunately. So yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, it is, and well, as I'll take
I'm
over
here.
this interview
I'm
for
here.
a little bit. You are here, Will. There we go.
I am, yeah. So, yeah, I was going to say that, Niklas, it's not the best result you ended for round number 1 of the championship, but in terms of you and the season, what's your thoughts? Can you get yourself a top 3? Maybe take the championship here?
Well, it's early days, obviously. I'm going to give it my all. I think competition here is pretty strong as it was last season. So, yeah, again, if I can stay out of trouble, I should be able to hopefully get a decent position. And, well, top 3 doesn't sound too bad, so that sounds like a good aim.
Well, that's Niklas Rasmussen coming home, P number 13 here today. But Connery, at one point, he was battling for the race lead.
Yeah, absolutely. This could be a thing coming through this entire season. So the Niklas Rasmussen and Teemu Toikka battle. Please make it happen, guys. But yeah, absolutely. And well, if we had some of the front runners that went out early on, the likes of course Niklas, we also had Andres Fernandez as well. Start P number 4. Didn't really get anywhere in the race. He finished P14. Same with Michael Kaiser as well. Finished P11 after starting 3rd. If those guys were able to have clean races, maybe we would have had a multiple car battle for the race win at the end there. Yeah,
indeed. So this could well have been a fantastic race, but week number 1 of the championship, Connery, always means you're going to be ending up working out where you are in relation to the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, these drivers do have a couple of drop weeks to be able to use throughout the season. The usual standard is 4 in these iRacing official series, so you can have a bad result here and there, and perhaps more so in iRacing official series than you can in league races, for example, but you still have to have some form of consistency over the season to be able to make anything work in terms of either your division championship or the overall championship here on iRacing. So, you know, some of those drivers that might have had a bad race here today, like Cameron Duns, like Fernandez, like Rasmussen, I don't think they'll be too worried right now about how things are going because you have all of those drop weeks in effect. But you can't just be doing this every single race, for example.
No, you can't, and consistency is key. We see it so often on iRacing event that consistency is key in terms of a 12-week championship. But Connery, as you say, we've still got 11 rounds of fantastic racing to go in what is going to be a very interesting Formula 3 championship.
Yep, should be interesting indeed, especially if we were on one of those F1 off weeks and all of a sudden we get a Lando Norris or a Max Verstappen in. That would be the most surreal thing ever. But looking past that, we do have next week, we're looking at getting ourselves off to Brazil, to Interlagos, which will be an absolutely fantastic racetrack for these cars. Just every time it seems on iRacing we go to Interlagos, in pretty much every series it's been an absolutely insane race with the amount of side-by-side through the middle sector. I expect nothing less next week.
I agree. Interlagos, I think, is going to be a true driver track. In fact, we've got 2 driver tracks in a row, Interlagos and Circuit Park Zandvoort. They are going to be pure driver tracks, but then afterwards, round number 4 and round number 5, maybe Draft Fest at Monza and Circuit of the Americas, Connery.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we actually mentioned it in the broadcast with the long straights, and you can't get many longer straights than the ones at Monza and the one at Circuit of the Americas. So very much drafting circuits between those two. But then afterwards, coming into the middle part of the season, you have Suzuka, which is probably one of my favorite tracks of all time. You also have Donington there as well, very suited to sort of club race style sort of battles there, of course. You know, in Britain at least, you have the Formula 4s that take themselves a trip to Donington quite often, and you know, slightly upgraded these cars, so should be able to put on a very good show at Donington nonetheless. And then finishing off the season, you have Spa, Road Atlanta, Silverstone, Watkins Glen, and then you have Laguna Seca as your season finale. Yeah, and put a circle around number 10 for Silverstone, because it's not the standard Silverstone layout here, Connery. It is the historical layout, and that means you are flat-footed for about 80% of the lap. Yeah, talking of drafting tracks, and maybe add that one to the list. But the historical Grand Prix circuit, and it's basically, if we're talking about the circuit in its current day configuration, it's the historical Grand Prix layout. But yeah, that should be an absolutely fantastic race nonetheless. I've never actually commentated a race at the historical Grand Prix circuit. It's the one where you do 80% flat out around the racing circuit. So that one should be very interesting indeed. So a good selection of tracks here for this season of the Formula 3 Championship. It should play host to some absolutely brilliant racing across those weeks as well.
Yeah, indeed. So before we go, of course, thanks as ever to Isabel, TrackCams22.com, Andres Warner and One Design, Samuel Grossman at Engineering.com, and Nick Thisson, Racesport TV, live timing and scoring. Are you still there, Connie?
Yes, I am. I thought you were finishing the broadcast. Oh, well, this broadcast has been very interesting. I should say, just trying to work ourselves back into things. But excuse our derpiness. We'll be back next week for more Racesport TV Friday primetime here on iRacing Esports Network. That was round number 1 at Imola. And join us for round number 2 in just a week's time at Interlagos. We'll see you then.
Do you want to play video games for 24 hours straight and raise money for kids?